Hello, this is Forrest Tanaka. I work on the IGVF data portal UI, and I'm going over the changes to the UI from November and December 2024. They were both short months because of US holidays, so I'm just combining the 2 months. Let's start with this one, 2080, file graph file set modal files report link. So last month, or the month of October, we introduced the file set graphs, and this is a small update to them. So let's look at analysis sets. And here's the small graph. And these square cornered nodes represent files, and the rounded corner ones represent file sets. And this changes to the file set. So if you click on these, you get a modal showing the files within it that are relevant to that relationship, the arrow relationship. But now we've added a report link. So you see two files here, ZVZB and ZDEO. And if we click the report link, we get a report page and a new tab with ZDEO and ZVZB. So that's that change. Let's see, cache common objects. So that's not a change you can really see. It's just that every time you load a page, and I mean like if you click the reload button or something, it loads certain objects from our database server. That puts extra load on the database server that wasn't really needed because the data rarely changed. So now we cache those objects on the UI server. Not your browser, but the server that we dedicate to the UI. So that's that change. Input for display. Yeah, on file sets, I believe there used to be a property called input file set. Let's look at input file set 4. That has changed to input 4. So this has the same role, but it's been renamed, and we had to update the UI to reflect that. And if we go to the report page, let's look at, I believe it's this one. And we go to the object page. We had to update this so that we got those files from the correct property. Okay, update analysis set list view. That's to change list view. So it's we added the file set type property here, so it's easier to tell the difference between these. And also for analysis or file sets with workflows that have the uniform pipeline property set, you'll see that reflected here with a new badge. We don't have any public data that has that, but once we have that, you'll see that here. For 8.30, I don't know how this happened. This is completely the wrong message here. This is really about file preview. I would again call this sort of a nascent feature. It needs a little more work. But for certain file types, we can display a preview on the object page for that file. An example, if I can find one here. Let's see, matrix file. No, not matrix file. Let's see, configuration file, for sure. Yeah, so these are YAML files. If we go here, you'll notice a new icon, the sort of eye icon with a tooltip here. And now if you click it, you can get a preview of the file without actually downloading it to your main storage. And it only shows the first portion of the file unless it's a short file. I think this is probably the whole thing because these YAML files are usually pretty small. Let's see, what's another one? Yeah, TSV files. And those appear in this tabular form. Again, just the first portion of the file, if the file is large. But there's a lot more we can do with this feature, and hopefully we'll get a chance to. And this one is just an internal issue. For 8.29, it's just a couple small changes. One was our collapsing tables had a bug on one page, and so I fixed that here. This is completely irrelevant now because there are no more collapsing tables. We've removed those in favor of a different mechanism that I'll show a little later. And the other change was that there was a bug in our UI end-to-end tests, which I fixed here. Now 8.30.1 is a bug fix release for the file preview. The preview button in certain cases disappeared the moment you clicked it, so I fixed that here. Okay, 8.31.0 file page file set sample table. So now, files do not have samples, but files do have file sets which do have samples. And so now if you go to a file page, in most cases we can see a sample table. So this is new. This is not the files sample. This is the files file set sample. So just a nice little convenience there. Let's see, add navigation link to GitHub issues. So under under help, we now have this third item, data portal issues. And if you click it, you get in a new tab a place where you can report issues with the data portal. In other words, data.igvf.org. Okay. Let me see. Show externally hosted data. We don't have any data like that publicly accessible, so I'm just going to show you some dummy data on a sort of dummy instance. And so let's take a look at the schemas first. You'll see for certain item types, we now have an externally hosted property. So it's for model files, sequence files, measurement sets, and model sets. Now for measurement sets and model sets, this is not a property you set. It's a property that gets imported from the files within these file sets. So let's take a look at sequence files and see what we can find. And you'll notice right away there in this list view we have an externally hosted badge. So that means that the file isn't hosted on the usual IGVF data portal servers. They're hosted somewhere else. And if we go look at the object itself, we can see it's externally hosted there. And also notice, instead of the usual download icon that we see on file pages that aren't externally hosted, we have this link to some other website, and that opens in a new page. Makes no sense here the way I have this set up. It's just an example. And we see the externally hosted URL here, a little tooltip that gives you a little more information about that because it's kind of unusual. So, right. And so if we go to the sequence files file set, which is a measurement set, again, this is just dummy data. We see it also has the externally hosted property. And, and we can see we show that for the file where that property comes from. Again, you cannot set this property on a measurement set or a model set. And if we look at their schema, if we look for externally hosted, I can put that here, externally hosted, you'll see it doesn't appear because we have to turn on this include non-submittable properties, and then it appears because this is not something you set. This is a property that's imported from its files. All right. Oops. Now let's take a look at index file list and object pages. Again, we have to look at our dummy instance because we don't have any public data to show this. A little while ago we introduced index files, but now we have a custom list view, which looks pretty much like other file sets. Other files. And if we go look at the individual page, we get a page for index files. It doesn't use the generic pages, which appear if we introduce a new object type, but we haven't designed a page specifically for that type. So for index files, we now have that. And display submitter comment. If we go to, let's look at files. And we'll hide all the columns except submitter comment. And let's see where we can find one. Oh, maybe we can look at the actual data. Again, files, submitter comment. Okay, nothing there. We'll just keep scrolling through until we find one. Ah, there's one. And so now on the object page for files, if it has a submitter comment, we show that here. Okay, that's 8.31. Now we're into the month of December 2024 with 8.32. Okay, so 2218 is for the new IGSR prefix. That's actually a misspelling. And I don't believe we have any public data with this, but for this dummy data here, we have, for human donors, we now support the IGSR external resource. And yeah, so it links out to the International Genome page that you select with this ID. Again, that only applies to human donors. Okay, so 2133 changed from collapsible panels to a section directory. Now, a few weeks ago, I documented the introduction of pages with collapsible panels, collapsible tables, I should say. And it was a solution I never really liked, even at the beginning, but I didn't have an alternative designed at the time, and I now do. This was introduced with the audit documentation page, where instead of making these collapsible, and then you have to keep opening them to see what you wanted to see, I put a menu up here, and you can just select which table of audits you want to see, and it'll scroll to it. So here's biosamples. If you want to see analysis sets, select that, down to tissues, and I just find this a far easier way to navigate around a page than having to uncollapse panels that I actually wanted to see. And so now we have this on pretty much every object page. Good examples are under measurement sets because they can have a lot of panels potentially. Let's look at this. Yeah, that does okay. And so now this has this icon, and you can scroll up and down the page with this menu. Attributions, donors, and now it's not just tables, it's any kind. So like attributions, for example, which is not a table, but now you can scroll to it. Or every page has this top of page item. And you know, this stays visible until you move your mouse off of it. Then it collapses by itself. Okay, 2166, display object preview status. Yeah, we now have a new status for objects called preview, which is available to the public. Item and status equals preview. Yeah, we got quite a few actually. So now we have this new preview status. It's a lot like the release status, but there's no guarantee that the data won't change. So it might be an object that you want the public to be able to see, but you want to make sure that they don't reference it, as a final kind of object. And on the page itself, it not only shows this preview status, it also always shows this banner. This object is in preview status. Metadata is subject to change until this object is released. And if you're in light mode, so it's sort of this orangey, coppery color. In dark mode and light mode, it's sort of this golden color. All right, and that is it for the months of November and December 2024.